the collective is too loud. The collective is talking too much. Let's finally talk about Jupiter in Gemini. I think it's time that I cover this topic with a video because I already have a article that I typed months ago, typed up and posted on my Tumblr page. I really like Tumblr. I just like the format, and I like the vibe. So guys, make sure that you log back onto your Tumblr accounts, because I know y'all got one. The way the girlies was, eating up Tumblr back when I was in high school, middle school, high school. I know y'all got a Tumblr account, so log back on. You know, it's okay to use things that everybody is not on, because guess what, somebody is on there. Coming into the month of October, Spirit has dropped off a really loud message to me that the collective is too loud. The collective is talking too much. A lot of us need to shut the hell up. Shut up. We're giving out too much information. We are just spilling all the beans to people who really are looking for ways to weaponize that information against us. We see this happening with the KIRK situation, okay? I really don't want to get into that too much, but it is a prime example of how sometimes what's understood does not have to be explained, and your 2 cents is not necessary. Okay, a lot of marginalized people took to the internet to give their opinion on a situation that didn't really concern them. Let's be for real. And now a lot of people are being targeted once again because this is my opinion now, because some of us went to the internet and we wanted to vocalize how we felt about, someone's death, right? So now HBCUs are being targeted. I attend a HBCU right now, and my school has been targeted 3 times in less than a month. And I feel really angry because I just feel like it's something that potentially could have been avoided. Now I know that schools get targeted all the time, and it's not something that's new or out of the ordinary, but I'm just saying that this is a prime example of sometimes you just gotta mind your business. Sometimes what's understood does not have to be explained. Sometimes your 2 cents is not needed to make change. Another situation, this Cardi B, Nicki Minaj situation, okay? Now, there's a lot that we can learn from that situation, which, maybe I'll make a separate video just covering that alone. But my timeline is full of Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. And of course, because I like Nicki Minaj, and sometimes I like Cardi B too. Like, she is not on the same level, in my opinion, as Nicki Minaj, but I do think that she has something unique to offer the collective. And so I can't discount, her personality. I can't discount that, yeah, sometimes she do be funny. And I did listen to her album, and I thought that she did have some cute songs. I thought it was a decent comeback, but I still think that she has a lot of room for growth, much like we all do. Nobody should be comparing her to the queen of rap, not even the queen of rap herself, okay? So with that being said, though, unless you live under a rock, you have seen this banter online, and it is a prime example of 2 people who talking a little bit too much. Seriously, it's a little bit too much conversation going back and forth. And so you may be experiencing this in your own life. You may be experiencing, maybe you're getting into more arguments with somebody, or maybe you're just witnessing a lot of people going back and forth, or maybe you're involved in a lot of gossip, or maybe some people are gossiping around you. Personally, for me, it's not the arguing, it's not the gossip. It's just that sometimes when I have conversations with people, I feel like they tell me way too much information and they don't even realize like how much they're giving away. Also, I've noticed that sometimes when I talk to people about stuff, it ends up being used against me. And so what we have to realize is that our mouth is a portal. Our mouth literally, when we speak on something, it literally gives someone access to our world, our life, our emotions, things that are sensitive to us. It creates a window of opportunity just simply by speaking on something. And so it's really, really important this month that you know and understand the power of your tongue, and you harness that ability real quick, because a lot of people are just saying way too much, and sometimes we can over communicate out of excitement. I know that for me, I have to check myself, because when I'm in a good mood or when I'm happy, that's when I'm most talkative. Sometimes I don't even realize it. I posted a reel saying, Spirit says, it was a spirit message, and I said, Spirit says you're too sober, right? And so that message was for me too, because I'm not this person that really, I don't really smoke, I don't really drink, unless I'm like going out with somebody. Like that's maybe the only time you'll catch me like drinking or even like smoking, doing hookah, all of that stuff like that. I'm not beyond a good time. But I feel like there are respectful ways that you can use vices. When we look at our ancestors, a lot of our ancestors smoked cigarettes or, smoked some form of tobacco. A lot of our ancestors drank. Why do you think when we set up altars, we're pouring libations, and it ain't just water, okay? I think that there is a respective way for us to engage with different substances that kind of help us balance out the soberness that comes with facing reality. Sometimes, guys, it's just too much. It really is, and it's okay to admit that. I don't know your vices. Some people like edibles, some people like smoking, some people like shrooms, some people like drinking. Like I've met someone recently over the past year that they did not smoke at all, but they will drink, baby. They got Don Julio number. Not really, but I'm just saying that's how much they drink. And it's not like they weren't an alcoholic, but that's just what they like. They don't smoke, they don't fool with marijuana, and I couldn't really hang with them like that because I'm a lightweight. So I'd be like, got my little shot, and that be that, because I'm like, one shot of Don Julio will definitely shake you up a little bit, especially if you're not a drinker. Coming into the month of October, I've had me some drinks, I got my edibles. By engaging with these substances, I was actually able to tap into my subconscious and tap into spirit. And like I said, I've been received this message about talking too much since I first typed this article. But it came to the forefront again when I was under the influence. I realized that, ooh, dang, I'm talking too much. And it's not even that I'm trying to be messy or anything. Like I said, sometimes you don't even realize how much you're talking because you may be so excited, you may be just in a good mood, and then you start running your mouth. Sometimes it just happens unconsciously, right? And so, like I said, Spirit brought to the forefront, even for me, outside of what's going on with the collective, on a personal level, Spirit is like, yeah, let's dial it back a little bit. Let's everybody on mute. You may be talking too much right now. You may be talking too much right now. So I highly encourage you to figure out where and who you may be over communicating with. Yes, social media may be one place, but I'm a content creator. So yeah, I know that some things that I put online or say online can be used against me or whatever. But all I have to do is be conscious of what I'm saying and what I'm exposing. But I can still make content. Spirit is not saying don't express yourself, but it's just to bring awareness to who we're talking to, right? Our audience. And this is something that I mentioned in the article. Who is our audience? Do they need to know this information? What are they trying to gain by asking me certain questions? And you know are they fishing for information, right? Because I've noticed a lot this year that people would just ask you questions, and it's like they don't think you're gonna pick up on the fact that they're trying to clock you about something, or they're trying to gain intel on how you moving, or whatever. They're trying to see how your life is set up and stuff like that. So again, sometimes we can just think that oh, it's just an innocent conversation, and we don't even realize how much information that we can just quickly divulge to people who really need to mind their business. This all has to do with Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini is not a bad thing. In fact, Jupiter in Gemini is really helping a lot of us to learn how to ask questions, learn how to be open-minded, learn how to maybe approach things a different way, not always take things so seriously, or even approach things so seriously. Because sometimes when we're overly serious or overly concrete, it blocks us from even confronting the issue. The other day, I came in contact with somebody who rubbed me the wrong way a couple years ago, and instead of confronting the person and being like, you did this, I kind of made a joke about it. But because I made a joke out of it, I was actually able to bring it up in a more comfortable way, still confront the issue that I had, but not be as confrontational with the subject. You know what I'm saying? So Jupiter in Gemini is really, really helping. It's helping me, and it's helping a lot of you. It's helping people network. It's helping people get their ideas out. It's helping people find their voice. It's helping people develop better communication skills, better writing skills, and just be more open-minded in general. There's a lot of people who don't like AI. And I think that AI has positive and negatives about it, but AI can be really helpful. And so it's like you have to be open-minded, though, to even be able to explore what AI can do for you, or what AI can help you with. And so, Jupiter in Gemini is the biggest thing that it's doing is it's opening us up. That is the biggest thing that Jupiter in Gemini is doing. However, there is such a thing as being too open. Too open. When you're too open, you can lack discernment. That's the main thing. I can't even come up with anything else. When you're too open, you lack discernment. Period. Period. We just have to be mindful of, like I said, our audience, the intention, where the conversation is going, the subject matter. Is this something that we should even be speaking on? and we just have to like pull back somehow. So I'm trying to pull up this article so I can just look at it, and I'm just gonna go like line for line and just see if any messages jump out at me that I wanted to speak on here and just channel some additional messages. There's just this really, really loud message from Spirit that's just like, shut up, y'all are too loud, y'all are talking too much, y'all are doing too much. So I challenge you, while I'm pulling up this video, to just contemplate for just a second. Even if you need to pause this video, just have a moment of reflection to figure out how you may be over expressing yourself, how you may be talking too much, running your mouth too much, how you may be on your keyboard too much, your Twitter fingers is doing too much. Okay, figure that out. Take some time. How you may be divulging too much information, giving away too much intel, letting people in your business, and then you're wondering where the sneak attacks are coming from. You're wondering where the side eyes are coming from. You're wondering why you're being targeted. Okay? It's because your mouth is too big. Your mouth is too big. Your Twitter fingers have been typing too long, and it's time to log off. I haven't really got too deep in my astrology bag in these videos because I just don't want to lose y'all, you know. I take astrology very seriously because I spent a lot of time learning not just tropical astrology. I did learn a lot about tropical, but when I switched to sidereal, I really did see how much astrology, if you really use it the right way, not the trendy way, not I'm a Leo, you know, all of that mess. You know, really, I'm gonna say this real quick, but OGs know, OG followers, y'all know, you're really all of the signs, and you're not limited. You know, you can show up in so many different ways, but it's just about the awareness. You know, really what your signs and your birth chart show you is, it shows you your life experiences. It shows you the people that are, you know, most likely to frequent in and out of your life or stay in your life. You know, it shows you your personality. It shows you your interests. It shows you a lot about yourself, but you're still not limited. And once you understand that you're not limited, and you don't necessarily have to over identify with these zodiac signs, because guys, like, I don't like talking about astrology with people because it's just, they don't understand. Like, everybody wants to be like, oh, I'm a Leo and I'm a Cancer and I'm a Scorpio, and I just hate that shit. Like, I hate it so much because it's just like, you're a human, you know. And I really like to use astrology, like I said, for healing purposes, for awareness purposes, and to just know what's going on around me, knowing the climate that I'm in, knowing being able to read the room, and when I say the room, just the year and the month that I'm in, and just being able to avoid unnecessary pitfalls that I don't have to experience, you know. So I really, that's what I like to use astrology for, is alignment, and that's what I am using it for on this channel. I'm not using it as clickbait and, you know, oh, let me tell you about your sign, and I'm so past all of that, you know. But anyway, so now I have found the article on Jupiter and Gemini. The article is called Are Geminis Really Two-Faced? So basically, I start by breaking down what a Gemini is, and just to summarize that information, Gemini is an air sign. We already know that. They deal with road opening, they deal with communication, language, multitasking. We already talked about that a little bit. but they are collectors. They're a Mercury ruled zodiac, and Mercury, the planet, is a collector, okay? So they collect information. The problem with collecting information is that not all information is true. So when we are learning, when we are collecting information from different resources, whether that be text, social media, in-person interactions, we still have to be able to go into our own little bubble and assess what we have collected to kind of sort of get to the bottom of it and see, is this really true? And that's what one of the things that Gemini can struggle with. Gemini is also the opposite of Sagittarius. Just FYI, Sagittarius is kind of like that guru energy. Sagittarius is the teacher, the expert, the person who's qualified and credentialed, right? This is what Sagittarius is, right? But Sagittarius is also a student, right? They're equally a student and a teacher. Going back to, like I said, they're the expert, they're the person with the credentials, they're the qualified person, right? Gemini challenges Sagittarius and says, oh, well, if you are so qualified, if you're so credentialed, if you have so much experience, did you know this? Can you tell me about this? It's kind of like they're not making fun of the Sagittarius. I mean, maybe sometimes they are, but it's more so like they're challenging them. They're challenging their expertise. They're challenging their experience. And because Gemini challenges Sagittarius, it opens them up to more learning, more growth, new experiences, right? And we all need that. And that's what I talked about earlier, is that, for the most part, Gemini is reminding us to be open-minded, to live life, to not get so trapped in one way of doing things, or thinking that we have it all figured out, and not being willing to maybe become a beginner again, or go to the next level where we've accomplished whatever we have, but now at this level you're back to square one. You're back to being a student. You're back to being a beginner. And that's okay, because how can you elevate? How can you advance without progress, without being a beginner again? I'm just scrolling through, seeing what pops out. Okay, so I have indecisive, confusion, not being able to focus, playing devil's advocate, entertaining a lot of unnecessary back and forth and discussion. Okay, so that's kind of stuff that I talked about earlier, is like, especially with that devil's advocate, like some people, we got to start getting better at recognizing when people are being shady, okay? When people are not genuinely, trying to have a conversation or genuinely trying to connect with you, but they're being facetious, okay? And maybe they're trying to poke fun at you, or we just have to be more discerning, because not everybody means well. And sometimes we will put ourselves out there, and this is not to discourage you from trying to network or trying to make new friends, or putting yourself and putting your ideas out there, but it's just about discernment. Like I can't stress that enough. It's just about knowing your audience, knowing what to share, when and who to share it with, and where to share it, and also having an intention about why you are sharing certain things and why you are saying certain things. Because even if it's not about somebody being shady to you, if you're a shady individual, it's like, what's the purpose behind that? Like, what's the purpose behind the gossip? What's the purpose behind running your mouth? What's the purpose behind getting on your keyboard and typing shady or ugly messages or tweets or statuses. Like, what's the point in that? Because all you're really doing is misaligning yourself and confusing yourself. The things that we want to do and to happen to other people, we first have to do to ourselves, right? So if you want to hex somebody, if you want to, block somebody's road, if you want to create gossip and confusion and mess with somebody, you first got to create mess with yourself. You got to create confusion with yourself. You got to block your own road. You got to hex yourself. Okay? And I gave you guys a whole story about hexing a couple weeks ago, where basically I said, yeah, I hexed a group of people, and the whole time God was just trying to tell me, you don't even belong here, right? So I put myself in a mindset. I had to do so much to survive in a situation that was not even fit for me. So you tell me who was hexed. So really, there's not anything that I definitely want to rediscuss, because I don't want to be redundant. Let me read this part out loud though, because this is something that I think y'all may need to hear. All right, so it says, there's a difference between speaking up for yourself and others as a means of protection or confusion clearing versus adding to the noise by continuing to go back and forth over explaining yourself and creating or entertaining drama. There's also a difference between telling your story, owning your truths, and beating a dead horse and sounding like a broken record. Eventually, this all just gets messy and the point gets lost. Why do you keep repeating yourself? Okay, so that's important, because in opening up, right? I said that Jupiter and Gemini is opening a lot of us up. It's opening up airways, it's opening up communication, it's opening up opportunities, it's opening up connections, right? It's just like I said, y'all have to know that Gemini, the sign Gemini, is kind of synonymous with the issue or the road opener energy in African or diasporic traditional religions. Okay, so we're basically working with another road opener type energy, right? Because Aquarius is also something that I consider road opener energy. But Gemini has this road opener energy, right? Where it's opening up all these things. But just because the portal and the door is open, we still have to be discerning about which door is right. We can have 7 doors. We can have 7 portals that are open. 7 doors that are open. We can't go through all the doors. We have to choose, okay, I'm going to take this route. I'm going to go this direction, right? We still have to make a choice, and we still have to have that ability to choose clearly and wisely. Sometimes you can just be too open. Like, I will use the Cardi B and Nicki situation, for example. Both of them wanted to, speak up for themselves. They wanted to protect themselves. But at a certain point, did it clear anything up, or it just added to the noise and escalated the drama, right? At a certain point, was it just a bunch of back and forth? At a certain point, was it just somebody beating a dead horse? Was it just some people, repeating themselves over and over again and becoming broken records? It definitely was. It definitely is. I mean, these 2 individuals have been feuding for years. We have to really look at why communication is not solving anything. So I go on to say in this article that sometimes being silent or not offering any explanation is actually the best response, okay? A lot of what I said is in this article, but I really put a lot of emphasis on discernment, thinking before you speak, thinking before you respond, thinking before you give your opinion on things, and, just being quick to shut down things that are silly, things that are messy, things that are facetious, and malicious. And if you can just tell off the bat that this is fishy, like, why even entertain it? So yeah, like, that's one thing that those are some things that I brought up in this article. And we also had we started off 2025 with a Mars and Gemini retrograde, which was very interesting, and I wanted to take a look at that and just share some things from that. Mars and Gemini, the retrograde at the beginning of the year, per my article on Tumblr, was about being honest. I don't know, is the lighting still good? Because I feel like it's so dark. The sun's going down. All I'm trying to do is help you with your communication. Right now, Spirit says we need to make some adjustments. That's what this video is about. And all I'm doing is telling you why and how you could make those adjustments. That's it. And I'm telling you where this energy is coming from, okay? I'm telling you why your mouth might be too, your throat chakra might be a little too open right now. You might be a little too tapped in on the keyboard. I'm just letting you know why, where it's coming from. So here's something that was brought up when I talked about Mars and Gemini on Tumblr. The retrograde we had from the end of January all the way through all the way up until May of 2025, right? And so this whole retrograde was about honesty. It was about speaking up for yourself, but doing so in a way that is not all the other stuff that I was just talking about. Why am I blurry? I don't get it. Oh, I know why. Yo, look, it got brighter. Okay, I'm learning something new. All right, so Gemini helps us to speak up. If you've ever met somebody who is Sun in Gemini, which that means that they're born at the middle to the end of June, or they're born from the beginning to the middle of July, right? These are our true Geminis, okay? So if you have ever met someone who's a Gemini, they don't have a problem telling you the truth. Now, on the contrary, they don't have a problem telling you a lie either. I think it goes both ways, but I think one of the best things about Gemini is that they don't overthink the truth. They don't overthink what things are. They just kind of they could say whatever they want and it's like nothing to them, right? And I think that sometimes we can overthink our truth. I know personally I can overthink my truth, when at the end of the day it just is what it is. If something makes you uncomfortable, if something doesn't fit with you, it just is what it is. But here's what I want to challenge you with. Is that truth for you to know internally, or is it for you to express outwardly? Does the person or party or whoever it is, do they need to know that truth about you? Or is it just something that you need to know for yourself? Is it a non-negotiable for you? Is it something that you just need to know, okay, this is a problem for me, this is something that I need to do for myself, and it's not something that I necessarily need to shout to the world or discuss with anybody, but it is just it's me being honest with myself. And my biggest thing about Gemini is that Gemini kind of has this issue where they can be honest with everybody else, but when it comes to being honest with themselves, they really do struggle with that. And so we have to make sure this year that we're not that person who we can express our truth to others, or we can say the truth that others need to hear, but we struggle with that internal knowing, with that internal truth, and holding ourselves to that standard and setting non-negotiables for ourselves. One last thing before I end this video is that we have some squares that basically this month Virgo is going up against Jupiter and Gemini. And so Virgo is really going to challenge a lot of that energy that I was talking about. Virgo is going to challenge Gemini to say, where's the proof? Can you back up what you're saying? Can you show me the numbers? Can you show me evidence for what you're talking about? Virgo is going to challenge Gemini throughout the month of October to kind of back up what they're saying, right? Which is a good thing. It's also going to challenge us and other people in spaces where we may be over communicating, okay? So don't be shocked if you are called to pull back, to, tone down your voice a little bit this month. It's not necessarily because somebody's trying to, block your throat chakra. It's literally just spirit telling you, hey, not right now, you doing too much. You doing too much, okay? Just hold that thought, and that's okay too. It's okay to have balance. So let me get to this square so I can just peep through this to see if there's any messages that poke out to me. So we already had the first square on the 1st, between Mercury and Virgo and Jupiter and Gemini. Mercury is now in Libra, by the way. The second square will be towards the middle of the month with Sun in Virgo and Jupiter in Gemini. With the Sun in Virgo, by the 17th, we'll really be focused on, like I said, facts, proof, evidence, numbers. We're going to be focused on concrete data to back up what's being said about us, about somebody else, about a situation, fact checking and looking for the truth. It's still necessary to be open-minded, though. That's what Spirit is saying. Just because you're observant, just because you're looking for proof and evidence, doesn't mean that you still don't need to be open-minded, open to admit mistakes, okay? Like if let's say there is proof or evidence, or something that's brought to your attention or somebody else's attention, and the mistake falls on you, just be open to admitting, like, yeah, I messed up. Oops, I messed up. Be open to admitting when you don't know, when you don't have the answer. So guys, I did want to do a reading on this Gemini energy because this is a major part of our 2025 experience. Okay, just as I'm making a video about Gemini, about being all over the place, yeah, that's how you know the spirit of Eshu, our ancestors, somebody is helping me film this video, because look, I've been all over the place. I've been hopping around throughout the video, okay? But it's all for good reason, because I'm just trying to stay in the light. So I had to go ahead and come inside, just so that I can wrap up this video with a reading on the Gemini energy. Okay, so I'm gonna be going in with my New Orleans Voodoo Tarot deck, and for this reading I decided to just stick with one deck this time. Usually I use multiple decks in my readings, but because of that reason, I feel like my decks don't really get as much love as they could. And this is one that I've actually been leaving out of my videos because I literally forget to use it because I always have it hidden or tucked away somewhere. I know that it has good messages to offer as well. We've already had Mars and Gemini. I'm not going to read that. Like I said, that was about finding your voice and using that to be honest about whatever it is you're going through. Because if we don't speak up for ourselves, how can we change situations? How can we change things? And there are other ways you can change stuff without speaking up, but sometimes, even if changing your situation doesn't necessarily require you to vocalize what you're going through or vocalize your opinion or your feelings, it does. Being honest, telling your story, expressing yourself is very much a part of freeing yourself and opening your roads. So sometimes we can leave situations, but we still feel trapped. We can move across the country and we still feel, trapped. I mean, I've done that before where, yeah, I moved, but mentally and emotionally, I truly had to process, okay, I'm still holding on to some baggage, right? And so we release those things by talking about it, by being honest about it, by expressing ourselves. And so I hope that's something that you're practicing this year, but just not over practicing, finding balance in your communication by being able to listen and observe. Just take turns. Like, you ever met someone who where they're the only one talking, but it's supposed to be a conversation, so it's kind of like, just find that balance. If somebody is kind enough to listen to you and let you express yourself, give them a turn, open up, allow them to open up and share some things with you. Ask them some questions for a change. I've covered a lot of topics with Jupiter and Gemini, but we have our squares. So, what I'm going to be reading is just what Spirit has to say about this Jupiter and Gemini energy, and just the squares that we have this month. First, I'm hearing do a 3-card spread on what Jupiter and Gemini is trying to show us. So that's what I'm about to get into. Okay, so let's see if I can get a quick read on Jupiter and Gemini. All right, let's see what the tea really is. And I said a 3-card pull on what the main things that Gemini is trying to show us. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Spirit is saying go from the bottom of the deck. So I'm gonna turn this over, and the bottom of the deck, you see we have this is the first card, this is the second card, this is the third card. Woo! All right, so we got some heavy energies. These are the cards that we're going to read. What is Gemini showing us? First message that immediately popped out with Oshun Santeria. Okay, first message that immediately popped out was everything is not what it seems. Okay, this is exactly what this card usually talks about, things not being what they seem. Okay, so Jupiter and Gemini is really trying to open many of our eyes to the fact that there's some funny stuff going on that you might need to pay attention to. And funny, not meaning comically funny, but just some ironic things that are going on, some scams that are going on. Back to the Cardi B situation, a lot of people are saying, oh, her numbers are not real. And I do believe that there is some, disingenuous information, and manipulation of information going on with those numbers myself. But, that's neither here nor there. the point is that Spirit wants all of us to know, be careful, because you might be being tricked by someone or something. Everything is not what it seems, everything is not what it appears to be, and you need to ask questions. Okay, that's what Jupiter and Gemini is really, really helping you to learn how to do. Some of us need to remember how to ask questions again, remember how to be inquisitive again, and not take everything at face value. Okay, because face value is very dangerous sometimes. The first card that popped out though was this Aida Widow in reverse. So, you guys know I don't be using this deck that much, so let me look that up. However, like I said, this one came through with a clear message as soon as it popped out. This here is about planting seeds, setting intentions, starting new things. This could definitely be a sign of open roads as well. Again, that message of, kind of seizing the moment, taking advantage of opportunities that are sent your way, taking advantage of opportunities that, just taking advantage. I can't add on to that, but just taking advantage of things this year, planting your seeds, setting intentions. This year, 2025, is really special, and it's a year that we're going to see results from for years to come. So any positive things that you've done, any opportunities you've taken this year, any seeds you've planted or intentions you've planted, is very important to take note of that, because you're going to see results from those things in years to come. Okay, so let me look at this here. Yeah, Spirit keeps saying some of y'all are getting scammed and y'all don't even know it. Spirit keeps saying that. So, big deal on watching out for the scams. Okay, here go. Aida Widow. All right, so I have written in here, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I literally have written in this book, putting the desires of self first, self-love. Okay. This card in reverse, what I'm getting is that Jupiter and Gemini is making us question our desires. Like, is this what we really want? Is this the life that we really want? It's making us just question ourselves, question like our motivations, question our intentions, question, just like it's making us ask ourselves questions about our life, which is a great thing. Okay, so what I'm getting from this first spread here is that Spirit is using Jupiter and Gemini, the transit, the zodiac, to remind us to be inquisitive, to remind us to ask questions, to remind us that we don't know everything about ourselves, about other people. Okay, that's really what I'm getting. And to set intentions, plan for the future, seize the moment, seize the opportunity. Okay, so that's what I'm getting. I also, lastly, I just want to see what these squares, what's the biggest challenge? Okay, Spirit says 3-card pool again. But I want to see what the biggest challenge with these squares are. Virgo versus Gemini. I want to see what's going on there. All right, so, here we go. A card flipped over. So I was just thinking to myself, I want to see a card for Virgo when this popped up. So this right here is going to be our Virgo card. Then I'm going to get Gemini. What's going on with Gemini? And then I'm gonna get a solution card like in the middle. I want to drop off this quick message before I pull these next two cards. Spirit said, be careful volunteering information. Okay, we talked a lot about our mouths being too big, but also on the flip side, be careful with people who volunteer information. Okay, sticking with the topic of scamming, because Spirit wants me to say that word so many times for some reason. If somebody says something like, oh, this isn't a scam, or do you think I would scam you? Or if they bring up scamming unprovoked, if they bring up lying unprovoked, you have to watch out for people who volunteer things that are not true. Like they're saying, oh, what, do you think I would scam you? Do you think this is a scam? It probably is a scam because you didn't even ask them if it was a scam. You didn't say anything about being scammed, but they're talking about scamming. So, they basically just expose themselves without you even having to do anything, okay? They're using reverse psychology to trick you into believing that they're not lying or they're not scamming by exposing the lie first. Because if they expose the lie first, then you have no choice but to trust them, right? So be very careful about volunteered information. Okay, that's what Spirit is saying. Nobody asked you if you was lying, scamming, cheating, but you volunteered that information, so you must be. All right, so we got two reverse cards. Hold up, y'all trying to turn around. I don't know why. We got two reverse cards here. That's Gemini. Now I'm trying to get a solution card here. This is some issues that we're supposed to be coming up against with the squares. We only got one more left, and that's our final card, and everything's in reverse. I hate it, but it is what it is. We're gonna read it. So I've gotten this card before. From what I could remember, was about structure. Y'all see the little pumpkin? Perfect for fall, right? That's how you know Spirit is aligned. It's a Spirit message. But anyway, so last time I got this card, it was about structure. But I'm gonna take a look at that. Okay, so we already know Virgo is a very meticulous earth sign. It is about structure. It is about calculating. It is about really reviewing the data over and over again, which we discussed earlier in this video. Then I have Rada Hogan, and he has his drum. Okay, so looks like there's some anger that might be bubbling beneath the surface. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into this card as well. I don't know if this, what Spirit just told me is someone or something is trying to hide the truth, but it's like boiling beneath the surface. Like the truth is like right there, ready to come out. I don't know. All right. So we got Virgo and Gemini. What it looks like is we might be confused or looking for the truth. And then Gemini is like, it's right there. It's right there. It's right beneath the surface. The truth is hidden in plain sight. So it's kind of like we're looking for nothing. Like it's right in front of our eyes. But maybe, somebody's just fighting to keep it hidden. They're fighting to keep the truth hidden. I don't know. That's just what I'm picking up. Then we have Ogun La Flambeau. So let's go to the book, and then we're going to wrap this reading up. This card says, this is definitely talking about the earth energy, the earth sign energy of Virgo. It says that in the card description. But it also talks about the feminine aspects of the earth. Okay, it talks about maternal energy. It's kind of like using feminine aspects to protect yourself. Using feminine aspects to protect yourself. Okay, so it's kind of like using your intuition, using being soft, being quiet, being observative, listening. All these things can be seen as feminine qualities. So what Spirit is saying is that throughout the month of October, it's going to be those soft skills that really do help you to make hard decisions. The soft skills are really going to help you put two and two together. The soft skills are going to help you survive tricky situations, okay? So let's look at this Gemini energy, because it's just looking like from this card like somebody is hot and bothered. So it says something about being ready to attack. So this is definitely giving like somebody is hot and bothered. It's like somebody is mad. Like somebody is mad this month. I don't know who that is for you. Like it's a man on this card, so maybe it's a man that's mad with you, but maybe it's not. It could be anybody. But somebody is mad about something that maybe you're doing, maybe I'm doing. Okay, but somebody is like, it's like they're bubbling beneath the surface and they're trying to like hide it, but maybe they won't be able to, because maybe you're gonna just like, it's gonna come out in like comments, or it's gonna come out in the way they talk, or stuff that they say to you, or stuff that they do that might be indirect or shady or subliminal. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just really getting like somebody's bothered this month, and it's about like something to do with like conversations or things that are said or not being said, or somebody's mad about something that has to do with communication or the way you communicate, or so the thing is, the only solution here is to ask questions. That's what I'm seeing, is that we need to ask questions this month. And I've been talking about asking questions, the whole video. So yeah, pay attention to slick comments, things that seem, little comments or whatever that seem like somebody's mad at you or whatever. But remember that it's the soft skills that are going to protect you from whatever this energy is. This person, or whoever's so bubbling beneath the surface, can't wait to say something, because they so mad, right? It's the soft skills that are going to protect you. And it's saying like, it's like a bigger picture going on. A lot of stuff that may or may not happen this month. It's not about you, okay? You see how these cards are in reverse? That means that it's not about you. But if you make it about you, it's gonna be about you, okay? So this is our final card. This is the solution to things that may come up with that final square that we'll have on the 17th. Let's see what Ogun La Flambeau has to say. So I'm just going to read this verbatim because it says something really, really profound. It says, have the ability to still question things and ideas which one has given much. What they're saying is, even if you put a lot of time and energy into something, even if you have put a lot of thought into it, even if you're passionate about something, still be able to step back and question what's going on in your connections, in your interactions, in your relationships, and whatever it is that's going on. Like, even though we see like a lot of fire in this reading, there's like a lot of like passion, but all these cards are reversed, right? So what that's telling me is like, yeah, you might be passionate about it. Yeah, you might be like feeling fired up. You might be feeling good about something, or you might be bothered about something. You might be upset about something. You might be angry about something, but still be able to step out of those emotions, right? Because anger is still an emotion. Being passionate and upset and fired up or whatever it is still an emotion, right? So be able to step outside of that and question what's going on. Question yourself, question the circumstance, question everything around you before you act. I know a little bit about Ogun, not much, but I know that, he's a warrior spirit. And so, we all know that, of course, yes, having that warrior spirit can allow us to push through obstacles and challenges and get stuff done, go after things no matter what. But then, like, sometimes we have those roadblocks for a reason. We have those disappointments for a reason so that we can step back, be objective, and question, things and really reconsider where we're going, right? Because not always do we have the best sense of direction. We're not always moving with discernment. We're not always grounded. So that's really what this card is mainly talking about. It's just kind of talking about like being calculated, not just moving willy-nilly, not just moving off instincts, emotions, passions, anger, okay? Because sometimes our emotions, sometimes our own energy, sometimes our anger, our passion can very much be destructive if we're not wielding it with intention.
Hello guys, editing me here. So I was obviously listening to the playback of this reading, and as you can see, all the cards here are reversed, and sometimes reverse cards can be really, really tough to read because the whole point of reversals is to challenge your perspective of the situations or circumstances that you're currently in. Okay, so if you are listening to this reading and maybe it's a little bit challenging for you to follow, I'm here to kind of clear that up and just drop off some additional gems that came through while I was editing. So, yes, what Spirit is saying is we need to pay attention to those soft skills. We need to utilize those soft skills, but we need to balance that out with asking questions when we're unclear about something. Don't just make an assumption. Don't just always move off of your assumption of something without having a question or, attempting to communicate clearly. However, what the solution and the confirmation that's provided by this Ogun card in reverse, really, I spent a lot of time saying that this card is saying don't move off your instincts. Don't move too risky, too harsh. Don't be too direct or too forceful in your approach. And all of that is true. Again, nodding back to those soft skills we were talking about. However, I really believe that this Ogun card in reverse is a message confirming that yes, you can move off of your instincts because your instincts, your spirit, that higher part of yourself that's not necessarily working off logic is actually working off something higher. And because you're able to follow that instinct, follow that strong nudge or that force that's pulling you and directing you to do certain things. Some people are going to gaslight you. Some people are going to call you crazy. Some people are going to say you're doing too much, you're overreacting, when really you're just standing on business and you're standing up for yourself, you're standing on your truth, you're standing on your beliefs. again, that warrior spirit. So I want to challenge you to connect with your warrior spirit. I know some of us, I know I definitely have warrior spirits like as ancestors, but connect with your inner warrior, because there's an intuitive part of that warrior that's trying to maybe protect you from the lies, the scams, the deceit that is, running rampant out here in 2025, okay? Um, so yes, I hope that offers you some clarity as you end this video. Um, just walk away with the understanding that it's not about overreacting, over responding. Um, it's not about blowing up on people or, exposing people, going off on anybody. It's not about any of that. It's about utilizing those soft skills, utilizing your intuition to protect yourself, to direct your footsteps and your path so that you can continue to stay in alignment. This whole reading is about being inquisitive. So it is my prayer that you guys can really step back and ask yourself the hard and easy questions and messy questions, even, because some questions are messy. But hey, if it brings clarity to you and, you know, you can find out more truth that way, more power to you. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this reading, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.